Once permission had been given by Archbishop Ritter, Father Bowden informed the Hunkelers, and the first of the second series of exorcisms was to be performed at the home of Ronald's aunt and uncle on Roanoke Drive, Belknap, St. Louis, Missouri. On the 16th of March 1949, a number of priests were gathered together at the home. They included Father Bowden as chief exorcist, and he was assisted by Reverend Walter Halloran, Father Lawrence Kenny, and Father Charles O'Hara of Marquette University. From the start there was an air of dread felt by everyone. The home felt dark and sinister as the fathers entered the room where Ronald lay on his bed. It's alleged that he then laughed at them and screamed obscenities. They ignored them. The father shouted the words from the Roman ritual. "I cast thee out, thou unclean spirit, along with the least encroachment of the wicked enemy and every phantom and diabolical legion. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, depart and vanish from this creature of God." Before he could finish, and while sprinkling holy water on the boy, the bed started to vibrate and shook. Ronald looked directly at Bowden and spat at him. Bowden continued, all the while ignoring the tirade of abuse that was aimed at him and the other fathers. Bile was hurled at them all as the prayers continued. It's stated that things got worse from then on. The fathers held the boy down as he fought against them. The possessed Ronald growled at the men as the father demanded the demon leave the young man. Ronald then shot up in bed and removed his clothes, making lewd remarks to the men in the room. He drew closer to Bowden, cursing and growling at him. The father continued. Despite all that was happening, he was determined to save the boy. The prayers and demands that the demon remove itself from the boy continued for hours, until an exhausted Ronald collapsed back onto the bed. The fathers looked at each other. Was it over? As they thought he had been cured. Looking over at Ronald, they were horrified to see scratches appear on his body and his eyes apparently bled. After discussions with the other fathers, it was decided that the situation was far more serious, and conducting it at home could be dangerous, especially with the violence that they had witnessed. It might be better if they removed him. The exorcisms were moved to the rectory at St. Francis Xavier Church. It's thought that Ronald was moved to a room in Verhagen Hall while the exorcism was continued, but it's difficult to say for sure. It's claimed that the exorcism was just as dangerous there. As another precaution, due to the severity of Ronald's actions, they moved him to the Alexian Brothers Hospital and placed in the psychiatric ward, where, for everyone's safety, they had restraints on the beds, where they could, if they needed to, restrain Ronald, as his actions were now physically dangerous to all around him. On Monday the 18th of April, Father Bowden looked at the restraints, and out of pity for the boy, he decided not to use them. Bowden placed a crucifix in Ronald's hand and put holy medals and rosaries around his neck. He once again started the Roman ritual prayers of exorcism, but this time he said them in Latin. As the father chanted the prayers over Ronald, the boy screamed and spat out, "I'm in hell." The fathers looked on, trying to ignore the words being spewed out of Ronald's mouth. He growled at them, telling them they would feel the flames of hell and he would take one of them with him. As his words lingered in the stale, dank air, the father saw the cross, allegedly, rise off Ronald's chest and hang in the air before smashing into a wall. It was then that Father Halloran, looking straight at Ronald, would feel the wrath of whatever had possessed the boy. And it would see Father Halloran have to leave before the end of the exorcism. Ronald raged at the father and flew off the bed, attacking him with fists flying and landing a forceful punch in the face, breaking Halloran's nose. After this outburst, it was thought best, for everyone, that Ronald was now constrained. He writhed on the bed as Father Bowden continued. He shouted, "I cast you out, unclean spirit." Ronald's body twisted and contorted as the father continued to recite the prayers in Latin. Ronald argued back in Latin. This went on for hours. Once again Ronald lay back down, his body writhing on the bed. The room went dark as Ronald screamed in pain, complaining that his body felt like it was on fire. A strange voice came from Ronald's mouth, stating, "I am the devil. I will not leave." The last push. At 10:45 p.m. on the 18th of April 1949, while wearing saint medals and holding a crucifix, Ronald screamed, "Satan, Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you, Satan, and the other evil spirits, to leave this body in the name of Dominus, immediately, now, now, now." After a final spasm, Ronald fell quiet and proclaimed that he is gone. Ronald opened his eyes and looked round him. The fathers asked if he was Ronald. He answered yes, they have gone. Ronald later claimed he had had a vision of the Archangel Michael slaying a dragon and believed it was that had conquered the demon. This was the end of the exorcisms, although, like I've said before, there are some different stories. They're all along the same lines, but some are more fanciful than others. The fathers that spoke years later to an investigator who delved as deep into this story as he could would only talk somewhat about it. Father Halloran, who was only in his 20s at the time, would only say, when asked by the inquiring investigator many years later, quote, "All I did was report the things that I saw and whether I would make a statement one way or another wouldn't make any difference. Close quote. When questioned about reports of the boy speaking other languages, Halloran stated, "Just Latin. I think he mimicked us." Halloran said there were no demonic changes in the boy's voice, and that when the boy struck him, it wasn't with extraordinary strength. He also said, "I saw a bottle slide from a dresser across the room. There was no one near it. The bed moving. It was on rollers like any bed, but I was leaning on it when it moved one time. While there was spitting, it was not overly unusual. There was also no vomiting or urinating. While Halloran did see markings on the boy's skin, there were no letters or symbols." The boy's family asked the church to hide his name and to not reveal his identity ever. And they certainly kept that promise. The Hunkelers returned to Maryland 12 days later and never spoke of the events to anyone. They remained in the house for a few more years before moving sometime in the 50s. Ronald, who was christened during the exorcism, saw the rest of his family christened Catholic, and his parents received their first Holy Communion on Christmas Day 1951. It's said that the Hunkeler family visited the brothers once when Ronald was about 16, but it's believed Ronald never went back again, not that we know of anyway. In 1949, Brother Rector Cornelius closed the 5th floor corridor and removed the statue of St. Michael from where they had held the exorcism. Written by Father Raymond Bishop, an unedited copy of the exorcism diary was handed over to the author Thomas Allen. It was actually Father Halloran, who kept most of the details close to his chest, who handed them to him. The diary is the foundation of Allen's book, published in 1993, called Possessed, the True Story of an Exorcism. Although he doesn't disclose the family's name, there are many clues in there that people have picked up on and researched thoroughly. One such person being the writer Mark Opsisnick, who looked into the mystery of the nameless boy. He also kept the name to himself, but left another trail of clues. These clues would lead to the family name Hunkeler, and looking at the family's history, it all seems to fit. But as far as I know, it has never been verified, and probably never will be. As for Ronald Hunkeler, he never came forward as being the boy who became possessed. He didn't speak of it to anyone, but he also didn't deny anything. He kept to himself, apparently marrying and having his own family. It's thought he went to work for NASA. Basically, he just got on with his life. Thank you for watching.